This is Councillor Graham Campbell, the co-convener of SNP Socialists, once again on our kind of mini show here with my co-convener guest, Janis Wilson.
Hello.
Hey, so what's happening in this, third uneventful week of the election campaign?
Manifesto launches, corruption within the Tory party, shock horror.
Shock horror, no, never.
And the UN's verdict on Israel yesterday.
Okay, well, I think that means that's an agenda. So, bang for order, wave that gavel, and let's start talking about our election manifesto, which launched this week with John Swinney promising the most left-wing manifesto that there will be in this election, because it's the only one offering an anti-austerity manifesto that wants to protect the NHS from privatization, that wants to protect, the free, tuition and, all the things that we do for prescriptions, etc. And I think the other thing as well is that he made the pitch for, clean and renewable energy, all the things that we're doing there. So what else did he say in that manifesto?
First page, first line.
Yeah.
Vote SNP for Scotland to be an independent country.
Really? And I thought we weren't mentioning independence in this election, apparently.
No, apparently we're not supposed to mention independence because apparently that's not what the SNP is about.
Yeah, because of course it's the SNP's obsession with this. Of course, the electorate's not interested in these things. They just want to talk about the cost of living crisis and all the other things that we've all been talking about. But of course, underlying all of these issues is the continual thread of independence. The fact that polling is still showing that there's, around about 50% plus or minus one in favor of independence. So the public still want us to think about it. It might not be in their top, 3 or 4. Obviously, the ABCs that John's run on already, which is, austerity, Brexit, and the cost of living, they are the 3 top issues in election, no doubt about that. So top things that people bring to us as representatives. But running through all of those is independence, because unless you have the powers of independence, particularly powers over the economy, tax, etc., all of those levers of power, as Mary rightly pointed out with Channel 4, are at Westminster. So who's at Westminster? It's going to be Keir Starmer. Is he going to open up the wallet? Is the purse going to be opened up?
No, he's already said he isn't. Austerity is going to continue. The 2-child cap's going to continue. Nothing's going to change. And that's the really depressing thing, I think, for me, is that people will vote for Keir Starmer because they want change. And of course, his manifesto cover was something straight out of North Korea. Which change? What change, though? He's not bringing about any change. He's not promising change. The only thing that's going to change is the colour of the rosette that goes into 10 Downing Street. And
then there's Anas Sarwar doing his thing, saying, "Oh yeah, we oppose the 2-child cap. We oppose this Scottish Labour policy." But in the end, Keir Starmer is going to determine what that policy is going to be.
Why is Scottish Labour even putting forward a manifesto? It's not a Scottish election. Scottish Labour can say whatever they want. They can't implement it, and they think we're stupid. I think that's the underlying thing that's so frustrating, is they treat people like we're stupid. We're Scottish Labour, we're so different. They're not.
We know that, but I suppose, do you feel the manifesto really as a tool made any ripples? I think, to be fair, I think John's had a good first couple of weeks of the campaign. I'm not sure if this week whether the manifesto's ideas have really cut through yet, because people are so obsessed with the reform, mashing the Tories up and the Tories actually disappearing. And indeed, the little change that Starmer's offering, that it's kind of, I think it's thrown a bit under the radar. Would you reckon?
Look, I think by now most people have made their mind up about who they're voting for, and I think if people who haven't made their mind up do take the time to read the manifestos, then of course the SNP manifesto is obviously, I'm going to say it's better because I'm a member of the SNP, but it is the most left-wing manifesto in this election, and that's not difficult. But if people want change, and meaningful change, not just a man on a cover of a manifesto promising something they're not going to deliver, then the SNP manifesto is the manifesto to deliver change.
Well, speaking of the change that's needed on the national level, how are we moving to the international level? Which you were saying that yesterday, the UN Human Rights Committee came back with a report about Israel's conduct of
Yeah.
genocide in Gaza. What did it
So
say?
yesterday, the UN accused Israel of committing extermination in Gaza. Israel is responsible for extermination, murder, using starvation as a method of war. That was the UN Human Rights Council yesterday. Is it going to have an effect on the way that Britain and the US in particular arm Israel? Probably not. Although Angela Rayner did answer Stephen Flynn and said they will listen to the advice, they will listen to the legalities of whether or not they're going to stop arming Israel. Will they listen to this? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting that has come out eventually in the election, but it's almost like there's been a conspiracy of silence amongst on this, and of course on the £18 billion hole in public finances if they stick to the Tory spending plans. But one of the things they seem to be sticking to is not doing anything about recognising a Palestinian state or calling Israel in and weapons, and they're trying to keep that issue off the television and off the debate. But actually, we know from demonstrations across the UK, and indeed in Glasgow, there was a massive one again, co-organised by the Scotland Stop the War Coalition and other people, which I was at. It was a massive demo again. The electorate is very clear about they don't want the Gaza issue to go away, and the support for independence, of course, in the rest of the UK down south. We've heard about Jeremy Corbyn, Faiza Shaheen, and others. Very interesting that when we arrived at that demonstration, one of the first speakers was Hamza, the former First Minister, and he had a rapturous reception. And when he mentioned Keir Starmer's name, he said that the likely occupant of 10 Downing Street will be Keir Starmer. There was a spontaneous mass boo, and most of the speakers on that platform criticised Labour for its reactionary stance, saying why they weren't going to support them. And the word on the ground was that most people would, Hamza was really warmly received, and most people on the left have been very strongly on Gaza are voting SNP because that's the only vote you could have in this election. It's good that it's staying in the public. The public are forcing it onto the agenda by continuing to protest, continuing to write to the MPs, continuing to make demands of politicians as to where they stand on Israel murdering.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the sad thing is that although the voices are loud and very much in favour of a ceasefire, recognising the state of Palestine, I don't think that's going to be what the election is about. Which
not nationally,
is tragic.
no, I don't think
tragic.
so.
Tragic. The news yesterday didn't even mention the UN verdict. It didn't. I haven't heard on any of the news stations at all. It's just something that the British media do not want to talk about.
Well, the irony, of course, is that's going to play a massive role in the American election. It's causing Biden some troubles because of his equivocal stance, and a lot of young people are very discontent with him. And he should be miles ahead of Trump, but isn't, mainly because of this. But then, of course, we have the French election. This is not the only Southern election. The French election suddenly kicked off as well. And, the far right there, National Rally, formerly National Front, is in pole position. Macron's gambling that the centre will hold and that people will vote him to stop the fascist. But if you've got indistinguishable policies from the fascist on migration controls, French culture, defending French culture and all that nonsense, and if you've got pretty similar politics, then you're really building the support for the right. So I'm very worried that the one that if it's him versus the right, he would lose. And if that happens, then that's Europe messed up for the foreseeable future.
Well, you look at America, the choice there is awful. The choice in the UK is awful. Reform are gaining ground. Will they get an MP? I don't know. Will Farage get elected? I bloody hope not, but I don't know. The choice is between right or ultra right, and it's scary.
Well, polling is saying one thing, and the polls are very varied. Some are saying that Farage is well ahead in Clacton, but if you look at the whole prediction of polling companies just generally, they've been really up and down. In fact, for our result here, 1 minute they're saying that the SNP is miles behind Labour, the next minute they're saying we're neck and neck with Labour. 1 minute they're saying we're going to win only 15 seats. Next minute they're saying we're going to win 35 seats. So it's hard to know. And obviously, like Marion Bratt pointed this out, that the gap between the percentage gap. If you got 30% of the vote, that would mean losing a lot of seats. But if you've got 35, 36, 37, 40, then we keep loads of seats. It's not a big gap. It's a 5 or 10 percentage points difference may mean a massive difference in the number of seats. So really, this time every vote will count.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be a very interesting election result. I mean, the Tories are annihilated. That's the only guarantee. But I don't think they'll be annihilated by as much as people are hoping they will be, because there's the silent majority who will not admit it, but they will go out and they will vote. And I think if we need to galvanise the young vote, 18 to 25, we need to give them a reason to get out and vote. And I think the SNP has done that in Scotland, and continues to do it in Scotland. And hopefully, if that demographic, which is usually the ones who tend not to vote, get out and vote, then it could make all the difference here in Scotland.
And the other thing that will make a difference is, of course, the campaigning on the ground. The campaign on the ground, a good one, will make can make up to a 5% difference. So it really is, so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, what can I do to make this happen? And, to keep the course of independence going, get out there, vote, but go out and help, knock a door, help a candidate locally, and make sure that obviously the Tories are wiped out, but clearly that we must make sure that the SNP keeps its seats and gets.
You don't have to be a member of the party. Yeah, you don't have to be a member of the party to go out and deliver some leaflets. No, and if everyone who wants independence delivers their street and another street, then that's 50% of the population of Scotland engaged, which would be amazing.
Hope that happens.